Section 3.5, the point-slope form of a linear equation. Remember, linear equation has the following form: ax plus by equals c, where a and b and c are a bunch of numbers. This particular form is called standard form. Turns out there are other forms of writing the equation of a line, such as this guy, which is y equals mx plus b, and that's called slope-intercept form, where, as you know, this is the slope, m, and b is the y-intercept. So this guy is called slope-intercept form. The third form of a line of equation is called point-slope form. Notice the point is is x1, y1, and the slope is m, therefore the name point-slope form. The fourth form is called two-points form, and the points are x1, y1, and x2, y2. So in this section, contrary to the previous section, where we were given the equation of a line and we were supposed to graph the line, here we'll be told something about the line, and we'll be asked to write the equation of a line. So we're going backwards. So given some information about the line, how would you write the equation of a line? So that's basically this section is all about, writing the equation of a line based on the type of information you are given. So the question arises sometimes, how do I know which equation to use to write the equation of a line? Well, it all depends on the type of information you are given in the problem. So I'm going to go through all these cases. Case 1, write the equation of a line with the slope 2/3 and the y-intercept -6. So looks like this is slope-intercept form because I have the slope, I have the y-intercept. So therefore I'm going to use form 2, and basically I'm going to recognize this is the slope and this guy is b, the y-intercept. All I have to do is replace the m with 2/3 and b with -6, and I'm good to go. So y is equal to 2/3 of x minus 6. There you have it. Okay, so the slope is 2/3, y is -6, the y-intercept. You could also write this answer in standard form. Remember what the standard form is. The x and y has to be on one side and the number on the other side. So x and y gotta be on one side. So what do? First, I multiply both sides by 3 to clean up the fraction, correct? And what do I get? I get 3y is equal to, when you distribute the 3 by 2/3, you get 2. 3 times 6 is 18. So this would be 3y minus 2x equals -18. So there you have it. This guy is called the answer in standard form. Whereas previously the answer was in slope-intercept form. Do you see it? Because sometimes they want you to write the answer in this form. Sometimes they want you to leave the answer in that form. If they say write the answer in the standard form, so you got to put the x's and y's on one side and the number without x or y on the opposite side. So that's case 1. When you know the slope, you have the y-intercept. It's pretty straightforward. The next one is write the equation of a line which goes through the point -5, 2 with the slope of 3. So looks like just by the type of information I'm given in this problem, I have to use point-slope form, which goes something like this: y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Why am I using this form? Because I was given a point and slope, so I have to use the point-slope form, which is equation form number 3, point-slope form. Correct? So guess what? This is x1, y1, and this is m. All you have to do is substitute, clean up the equation, you're good to go. So this is y minus 2 equals 3 times x minus 5. So that's y minus 2 equals 3 times x plus 5. Distribute the 3, so you get y minus 2 equals 3x plus 15. Let's say the problem was leave the equation in what? Slope-intercept form. Okay, so you know what that is. That's like this form, mx plus b. So all you have to do is just add 2 and solve the equation for y. So you get 3x plus 17, final answer, in slope-intercept form. So what does that mean? The slope of this line is what? 3 over 1. And the y-intercept is what? 17. It hits the y-axis at 0, 17. Okay, the next section case is case 3. When you have 2 points, write the equation of a line whose graph goes through 2 points, point A and point B. So here's A, here's B. If that's the case, then I use the 2 points form, which kind of goes like this. Okay, that's like what? 2 points form. Remember, that was our form number 4. When do we use this form? When we are given 2 points on the line. Okay, and we have 2 points on the line in this problem. So I'm going to label these points as x1, y1, x2, y2. Does it matter which one is x1, y1 and which one is x2, y2? No, it doesn't. As long as you don't, mix the subscript, you're good to go. So this is like y minus 3 over x minus 4 equals negative 2 minus 3 over 6 minus 4. I'm just following the formula, correct? So now I have to clean this up. Incidentally, on the right side, this guy is the slope. Remember, slope is ratio of the rise over run. So this is kind of like you find in the slope here. Okay, so this is y plus 3 over x minus 4 equals negative 2 plus 3, 6 minus 4. So that's y plus 3 over x minus 4 equals 1 over 2. Okay, you got a fraction on the left, fraction on the right. This is called proportionality, the equality of two fractions. So to get rid of the fractions, what we do is what? Cross multiply, correct? So you end up with what? Oh, let's say 1 times x minus 4 equals what? 2 times y plus 3. Okay, so multiply the numerator of the fraction on the left by denominator of the fraction on the right, set it equal to, don't lose your equal sign, denominator of the fraction on the left by the numerator of the fraction on the right. Remove the parentheses, distribute the 2, and what do you know? We have, let's say we subtract 2y from each side and we add 4. So I get what? X minus 2y, these guys cancel, I get 10, and this would be like what? In standard form, correct? So this would be like standard form. All right. The next topic is, when do we say two lines are parallel? That means they never cross. Or perpendicular, they cross, but in a what? 90 degrees angle, you know, perpendicular, like a cross. Okay, turns out the definition is what? Two lines are said to be equal if they have what? Same slopes. In other words, the slope of this line is exactly the same as the slope of this line. Why? Because they go in the same direction, even though they are not the same line, but at least they both, like, pretend these are two cars going on Freeway 405 north, so they go in same direction. On the other hand, when two lines cross at a 90 degrees, what? The slopes are not the same. The slope of one line is negative reciprocal of the other one. Or you could say their product, that means M1 times M2, has to be equal to what? -1. So this is pretty much the definition of parallel lines and perpendicular lines. For instance, if I have two lines, okay, which happens to be parallel, and I know the slope of the first line, can I find the slope of the second line? Of course, remember, they have to be the same. So this guy is also 2/3. If the slope of the first line is -6, the slope of the second line is also -6. If the slope of the first line is 1/5, so is the slope of the second line. Why? Once again, two lines are parallel if they have same slopes. For perpendicularity, the slope of one line has to be opposite reciprocal. That means you got to flip the fraction. You got to flip the what? Slope and change its sign. So if the slope of the first line is 2/3, guess what? The slope of the second line is minus because it's opposite. And then reciprocal, that means you flip the fraction, is 3/2. So if you multiply 2/3 by -3/2, you should get -1. If the slope of the first line is -6, which is the same as -6/1, the slope of the line which is perpendicular to this line is what? Opposite. Opposite of negative is positive. Now you got to flip the slope, so the answer is +1/6. If the slope of first line is 1/5, the slope of the line which is perpendicular to this line is what? Opposite of positive is negative, correct? Negative. And then you flip the fraction, which is 5/1, so the slope is -5. How do you check this? You multiply -5 by 1/5, you should get -1. So now let's do problems concerning parallel and perpendicular lines, excuse me. The statement of the problem is write the equation of a line whose graph goes through this point and it's parallel to the graph of this equation, this line, and leave the answer in standard form. So there are like 4 steps we have to follow to get the answer, correct? Just to give you an idea what's going on is this. So you have a point, correct? So you have a point, okay? You have a line, okay? The equation of this line is 2x minus 5y is equal to 7. They want you to draw a line which goes through this point and at the same time, what? Parallel to this line. Excuse me. So this is L1, this is L2. Notice line number 2 has to go through this point. You gotta go through it, and it has to be parallel to the graph of this equation. So the idea is, can you tell us what is the equation of this red line? Yes. So there are 4 steps. So let's go through the steps to find the answer. First question is, put this equation which you are given in a slope-intercept form. In other words, solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 2x. Okay, I'm going to get -5y equals -2x plus 7. Correct? Excuse me. Then I'm going to divide each side by -5. Remember, you have to divide everything by -5 all the way across from left to right side. So you get y is equal to +2/5 of x minus 7/5. So there you have it. So that's step 1, rain or shine. Whatever the equation is given, put it in the slope-intercept form. Why did I do that for? Identify the slope of the line, which is coefficient of x on the right side. In other words, the slope of the black line, M1, is 2/5. Okay, so that's step number 2. Step number 3. Use the fact the slopes have to be identical if the lines are parallel. So, can you find M2? In other words, if the slope of this guy is 2/5, what would be the slope of the red line? Well, remember, 2 lines are said to be parallel if they have same slope. So I'm going to use the same slope as line number 1. So I just identified the slope of line number 2 is 2/5. So this would be like the red line, right? So for these kind of problems, we always, rain or shine, use the point-slope form to finish the problem. So this is your x1, y1. This is the point on the line, this red line. Here is your slope in step number 3. So substitute those numbers in the point-slope form. Do I use point-slope form always? Yes. So this would be y minus 5 equals 2/5 times x minus 3. Remember, my point was -3, -5, and my slope was 2/5. So this is my x1, that's my y1, right? And this is my slope. So let's clean this up. So y plus 5 equals 2/5 x plus 3. Negative times negative is positive. Clean up the fraction by multiplying both sides by 5, correct? And you end up with, let's say, brackets, 2/5 x plus 3, correct? So multiply both sides by 5 to clean up the fraction. The beauty of multiplying both sides by 5 is these 5s drop off or cancel on the right side. All you have is distribute the 5 here, so you get 5y plus 25. Now you get it what? Distribute the 2. Remember, 2 doesn't cancel, it's still there. So this is 5y plus 25 equals 2x plus 6. Okay, let's say the question was write the answer in the slope-intercept form. So the first thing you do is what? Subtract 25. So you get 5y equals 2x minus what? 19 is it? And divide both sides by 5. And y is equal to 2/5 of x minus 19 over 5. So the answer is in what? Slope-intercept form. If they want the answer in what? Standard form from here, all you have to do, remember you had 5y plus 25 equals what? 2x plus 6. All you have to do is put the x's and y's on one side of the equation. So subtract 2x and subtract 25. So what you get is 5y minus 2x. These guys cancel. These guys cancel. And you get negative what? 19. So this would be like what? Standard form, correct? Standard form. And this would be like what? Slope-intercept form. Do you all see it? Yeah. So that's how you do parallel. How would you do the problem if the word parallel changes into perpendicular? You still have to what? Follow these 4 steps. So the only difference is step number 3 when you try to identify slope of line number 2. That's the only difference. Everything else pretty much the same. Solve this equation for y. So you have a point. So here's the deal. You got a point. You got a line, right? The equation of this line is negative 1/3 of x minus 7/8. Guess what they want you to do? They want you to draw a line, passing or crossing point, what? P, right? But it's perpendicular to what? To line L1. So the question is, what's the equation of line number 2? Okay, so how would you do this? Just like previous example, solve the given equation for y. And in this case, it has been solved. So step number 1 is A-OK. Identify the slope of line number 1, which is the coefficient of what? X in the slope-intercept form. Remember, you got to solve for y before you identify the slope. Okay, use the fact the slope of what? One line is negative reciprocal of the other line for those lines to be perpendicular to each other. So guess what? If M1 is negative 1/3, since the lines are perpendicular, M2, that means the slope of this red line, is opposite of this guy, which is positive, flip the fraction, so the answer is 3. So this is the slope which we use in the next step. Remember, we always finish these kind of problems using point-to-slope form. Okay, do I have a point? Yes, we do. It's -4, 1. So that's your x1, that's your y1. Here is a brand new slope. Use this form, finish up the problem. So this would be y minus what? Plus 1 equals 3 times x minus -4. So there you have it. Remember, the point was -4, 1. This is your x1, that's your y1, but the slope is not -1/3, it's 3. Okay? Because I had to take the what? Negative reciprocal of this guy, which is 3. Alrighty, so this is y minus 1 equals 3 times x plus 4. Remove the parentheses. Y minus 1 equals 3x plus 12. Add 1 to both sides. Suppose the instruction of the problem is what? Leave the answer in a slope-intercept form. So all you have to do is solve your final equation for y. And this is basically the final answer. So notice the slopes are negative reciprocal. Notice the slope of this line was -1/3, whereas the slope of the brand new line is 3. But they have different y-intercept, of course. So this would be our final answer. Do you see it? Okay. Sometimes they give you 2 pairs of equations. They want you to determine without graphing. So this would be like without graphing. So that means do not draw a picture. Can you just tell by inspection if the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither? In order to do that, you need to put both equations in what? Slope-intercept form and compare the slopes. So in this case, you get what? 3y equals -2x plus 11. Divide both sides by 3, you get -2/3 of x, what? Plus 11/3. Now compare this equation to this equation, okay? And now compare the slopes. Ready? Okay, it looks to me the slopes are identical because m1 is -2/3 and m2 is -2/3. When do we say the 2 lines have the identical slopes? When they are parallel. So the answer here is you have parallel lines. Why? Because the slope of the first line is identical to the slope of the second. Notice I didn't even draw the picture. I could just tell by the slope if the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or they cross each other, not necessarily in a 90 degrees angle. So this guy is in pretty good shape. Let's go over this problem. But this guy, I need to what? Put it in a slope-intercept form. So I'm going to divide both sides by -4. Okay, so I'm going to end up with y is equal to -4 divided by 8 is -2. And this one is -15/4. Now I'm going to compare the slopes. You got 1/2 versus -2. Looks like 1/2 is negative or opposite reciprocal of 2, so that would be like perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines. Do you see it? Why is that? Because if I multiply the slopes, I should get -1. Do I? 1/2 times -2 is -1. Checks. Finally, this guy, first you have to put what? The equation in the slope-intercept form. Subtract 6x from each side. Divide both sides by 2. You get this. Here, you just divide each side by -1. Don't forget to divide everyone all the way across by -1. So you get y equals -4x plus 5. Correct? Now compare the slopes. The slope of this line is what? -3. The slope of this guy is -4. They are neither equal nor negative reciprocal, so therefore these lines are neither parallel nor what? Perpendicular. So they must be crossing each other at a different angle. Okay? Not necessarily what? 90 degrees. So that's how you do that. Let's finish this section with a word problem. And don't panic, it's not what you think. It's really super easy. All right. The marketing manager at Arby's restaurant determines that the demand D, so demand is what? The number of customers are willing to buy your merchandise. For a new sandwich, a linear function of price P. So the demand is going to be a function of price. And the price cannot go below 80 cents or cannot go above $4. So this is just an extra piece of information on the side. If the price is $1, guess what? They can sell 530 sandwiches. If the price is set at $2, then they can what? Sell 400 sandwiches. Notice the minute they raise the price, less, 130 people less bought the sandwich. Using the order P comma X, remember P is P comma D, remember P is your X, what? D is your Y. Okay, can you write the equation for the demand as a function of what? P. Remember, D is going to act like a Y, P, the price, is going to act like an X. So if the price is $1, 530 people are going to buy it, so that's called demand. If they set the what? Prices of each sandwich at $2, 400 people are going to what? Buy the sandwiches. Okay, so because I got 2 points, so I'm going to use what? 2 points form, and that's going to go like D minus D1 over P minus P1 equals D2 minus D1 over P2 minus P1. So remember, instead of X's and Y's, we use prices and demand, okay? So now, if you just go D minus what? 530 over P minus 1 equals 400 minus what? 530 over 2 minus 1. So if you clean this up, you will end up with D is equal to negative 130 plus 660. There you have it. So now we have an equation of a line. Do you see it? And this is the slope. All right. So based on this equation, we can predict what's going to happen in the future. For instance, the question is, can you tell us how many people are going to buy the sandwich if Arby's decided to set the what price of each sandwich as $2.60? So I'm going to go back to this equation, correct? And I'm going to replace what? The P's with what? $2.60. And if I work this out, I get 322 what? Sandwiches will be sold. Notice I'm predicting the future based on what my mathematical equation. The other part is, what would be the price if you are hoping 244 people buy the sandwiches? So this is demand, P is missing. So go back to this equation in part, but A, replace the D with what? 244, and solve this equation for P. If you solve the equation for P, P comes up to $3.20. In other words, for Arby's to sell those sandwiches for what? 244 people, or if they were hoping to sell 244 sandwiches, they have to set the price at $3.20. Thank you.